He secretly married another woman. His wife changed her life in silence. John Mercer had always believed that logic could solve anything. As an IT specialist, he spent his days debugging systems, fixing errors, and restoring order where chaos once lived. Code made sense to him. People didn't. At 37, John had what many would call a stable life. A well-paying job at a cybersecurity firm in Seattle, a neat apartment on the 12th floor, and a wife who never raised her voice, never complained, never demanded explanations. Her name was Emily. Emily Mercer woke up every morning at 6 a.m. without an alarm. She prepared John's coffee exactly the way he liked it. 2 sugars, a dash of cinnamon. She ironed his shirts, organized his documents, and listened carefully whenever he talked about work, even though most of it sounded like a foreign language to her. What John never noticed was how quiet her silence had become. For the past year, something in their marriage had shifted. Not dramatically, not in ways that screamed betrayal. Just small absences, late nights, phone calls taken in the hallway, passwords changed, smiles that didn't reach his eyes. John told himself it was stress. Emily told herself the truth hurt less when ignored. That morning, John was already dressed when Emily entered the kitchen. He was typing on his phone, smiling faintly. "Coffee's ready," she said softly. "Thanks," he replied, barely looking up. She watched him closely as he took a sip. He nodded in approval. The same nod he had given her for years. Familiar, automatic, big day? She asked. "Always," John said. "System migration. Might be late." Emily didn't respond immediately. She turned back to the stove, pretending to check something that wasn't there. "You've been late a lot," she said finally, her voice calm, neutral. John stiffened for half a second, just enough for her to notice. "You know how it is," he said quickly. "Things break, I fix them." Emily smiled. "Of course." That smile used to mean trust. Now it meant survival. John left at 7:15 a.m. As usual, Emily stood by the window, watching his car disappear into traffic. Only after the street was empty did she allow her shoulders to drop. She walked into the bedroom and opened the bottom drawer of her dresser. Beneath folded scarves and old notebooks lay a thin brown envelope. Inside were printed documents. Marriage records, not hers. John Mercer and Anna Blake, married 6 months ago. Emily had discovered the truth accidentally. A shared cloud account. A sync error. Ironically, the same kind of mistake John fixed for a living. She remembered staring at the screen, unable to breathe, as the files loaded one by one. Photos, certificates, hotel bookings. A second life, carefully hidden behind firewalls and lies. He hadn't cheated once. He had married another woman. Emily hadn't screamed. She hadn't confronted him. She hadn't cried, not that day. She had closed the laptop, made dinner, and asked him how his day was. That was the day her silence began to glance around before replying. Cohang her life. At work, John thrived in control. He sat in a glass-walled office, surrounded by monitors filled with flowing code. His colleagues admired him. Calm under pressure, reliable, brilliant. What they didn't know was that John lived in constant fear. Fear of overlap, fear of exposure, fear that one world would crash into the other like corrupted data. At lunch, his phone buzzed. "Anna, did you book the tickets?" John, not yet." "Busy today." "Anna, you said that yesterday." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "John, tonight. I promise." He locked the screen and leaned back in his chair. Anna was everything Emily wasn't anymore. Demanding, emotional, intense. She made him feel alive, needed, wanted. Emily made him feel safe, too safe. John justified his choices with logic only he believed. He told himself he was protecting both women, that one day he would fix everything, just like broken code. He didn't know that Emily had already started rewriting her own system. That afternoon, Emily stepped into a small community center 3 blocks from their apartment. The sign outside read, "Career Restart Program, Evening Classes." She hesitated before opening the door. 10 years ago, Emily had studied business administration. She had dreams of working, traveling, building something of her own. Then marriage happened, and slowly, quietly, her ambitions were packed away like unused files. Inside, a woman at the desk smiled. "First time?" Emily nodded. "Name?" "Emily Mercer." She paused, then added, "I'm looking for a fresh start." The woman handed her a form. "You're in the right place." Emily sat down, pen trembling slightly in her fingers. For the first time in months, her fear felt different. It felt like possibility. That evening, John came home later than usual. Emily had already eaten. "You didn't wait," he said, surprised. "I wasn't hungry," she replied. He studied her face. Something was different. Not sadness, not anger, distance. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yes," she said simply. John nodded, relieved. He went to shower, unaware that his perfectly constructed lie was already cracking at its foundation. Emily returned to the bedroom, opened her laptop, and logged into a new email account. Subject: Enrollment Confirmation. She stared at the screen, her reflection faintly visible in the glass. "This is just day 1, she whispered to herself. And somewhere between passwords and secrets, between love and betrayal, 2 lives continued moving in opposite directions, unaware of the storm that was quietly, patiently forming. 6 months. The same amount of time John had been married to another woman. The coincidence made her chest tighten, but she didn't cry. She was done crying in advance for someone else's guilt. Instead, she opened a blank document and titled it, Plan. For years, Emily had planned meals, anniversaries, vacations, and John's life. This was the first plan that belonged only to her. The next morning, John noticed small things. Emily didn't wake him. There was no coffee waiting on the counter. No neatly ironed shirt laid out. He stood in the kitchen, confused, staring at the empty mug rack. "Emily?" he called. "I'm running late," she replied from the bedroom. Late? That word had always belonged to him. She emerged moments later, dressed differently. Simple blouse, clean sneakers, hair tied back with quiet confidence. "Where are you going?" John asked. She paused at the door. "Out." Something about the way she said it unsettled him. Not defensive, not apologetic, just final. At work, John couldn't focus. Lines of code blurred together. He fixed the same error twice. His manager asked if he was okay. "Yeah," John said. "Just tired." But it wasn't fatigue. It was the feeling of something slipping beyond his control. At noon, he checked his phone. No messages from Emily. There was always at least one. A reminder, a check-in, a heart emoji. Nothing. Instead, a message from Anna lit up the screen. "Anna, when are you coming over?" John hesitated. "John, tonight maybe." "Anna, you said that yesterday too." He frowned, irritation creeping in. "John, I have responsibilities." "Anna, so do I. I'm your wife." The word hit him harder than he expected. Wife. He closed the chat without replying. Emily spent the afternoon at a cafe near the community center. Her notebook lay open beside her coffee. Pages filling with notes, ideas, goals, reminders. Across the page, she wrote, "I am allowed to choose myself." She didn't know how long this path would take. She only knew she would walk it quietly, the same way she had endured the truth, would uncover. Silently, but not weakly. Her phone buzzed. "John, everything okay?" She stared at the message for a long moment. Then she locked the screen. That evening, John arrived home earlier than usual. Emily wasn't there. Her shoes were gone. Her coat missing. Panic flickered briefly, then anger replaced it. He told himself she was being dramatic. That she would come back like always. At 8:47 p.m., the door opened. Emily stepped inside, calm and composed. "Where were you?" John asked, unable to hide his frustration. She removed her shoes slowly. "Out." "That's not an answer." She looked at him then. Really looked. "You don't ask many questions for someone hiding so much," she said quietly. The air froze. John laughed nervously. "What are you talking about?" Emily walked past him, placing her bag on the chair. "Dinner's in the fridge," she said. "If you're hungry." He followed her into the bedroom. "Emily, seriously, what's going on?" She turned to face him. Her expression was unreadable. "I'm tired," she said. "Let's talk another time." Another time. The phrase echoed in his head. That night, John couldn't sleep. Emily lay beside him again, facing away. But this time the distance felt endless. He reached out instinctively, his hand hovering near her shoulder. He didn't touch her. Fear stopped him. For the first time since his secret marriage, John felt something unfamiliar. He felt behind. Across the city, Anna stared at her phone, waiting. She had waited before. She was good at waiting. But patience had limits. She opened her laptop and searched a name she had avoided for months. Emily Mercer. The results were ordinary. Social profiles. Old photos. Nothing threatening. Still, Anna's chest tightened. Secrets she had learned never stayed buried forever. Back in the apartment, Emily stared at the ceiling, listening to John's restless movements. She knew this was only the beginning. Silence had protected her once. Now it was sharpening her. Tomorrow would be day 2, and neither of them was ready for what her quiet transformation